Welcome back to Morning Express. Now, to set the ball rolling on the program, we're being joined virtually by Mr. Seun Oni, Editor-in-Chief, Daily Courier. A very good morning to you, Mr. Seun. It's wonderful to have you join us on the program.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Should I say Happy New Year or just compliments of the season?
Compliment of the season we do.
I believe we have met this year.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, that's fantastic. Well, very quickly, let's get to the matter of the day, which I believe, as the editor-in-chief of a newspaper house, in Lagos, uh, the story about the Lagos State House of Assembly speaker that was ousted, Obasa, talking about having served for the longest period of time in a historic turn of events. About 90% of lawmakers at plenary yesterday impeached him. And also, in another twist, another turn of events, Lagos State House of Assembly has now emerged with the first female Speaker of the House in history. What was your first reaction to this impeachment? And do you think that, much like many people who have mentioned that it was much expected, were you expecting the impeachment?
I think that's the right word. It was forthcoming, and like you rightly situated it, is a mixture of both sweet and bitter tale from Lagos State House of Assembly yesterday. Is actually more comical, bearing in mind that Obasa was actually traveling from far away USA to Nigeria when the plan was hatched and successfully executed. If you actually saw the way he denigrated the governor of Lagos State during the last budget presentation, he cast aspersion on a number of persons in the corridors of power in Lagos State. You just know that it's a matter of time he's going to be ousted from that position. So I was really not surprised when I got the breaking news from one of the television stations yesterday. I knew it's certainly going to happen, but I never knew that it's going to be executed in such a meticulous, because I expected a fight back, bearing in mind that he's been in that position for fairly a long number of years.
I mean, since 2016, that's quite a long
Yeah,
time.
yeah, that's quite a number of years. 2015 is a number of years. So I was expecting a fight back, thinking that it's going to have maybe a sizable number of persons on his side, maybe four or two, who will be able to stand up for him. But unfortunately, it was more of a what do you call it? It was a whitewash. The entire house stood against him, and now we have the first female speaker in the Lagos State House of Assembly,
That's
which of course
Princess Miranda, Mojishola Miranda.
Mujishola Ojora, and I think is a sweet news for the female folks, especially when you know that Lagos State is the commercial capital of the country. So you expect some level of fresh air in the Lagos State House of Assembly proceedings going forward.
Well, let's be hopeful that there is some level of fresh air. But interestingly, there are many claims as to why he was ousted. One, which is uh, the fact that the staff members of the State Assembly, were seen jubilating after his impeachment, as they claimed he never gave their welfare a priority while in office. That is on one hand. While on the other hand, many people have alleged that perhaps Obasa might have been planning to run for office in 2027 for the position of Lagos State Governor. Which one of these is true? And why do you think, in your opinion, Obasa was impeached the way he was, the way the House of Assembly members did? About 90% of lawmakers stood against him to ensure that he was unseated yesterday.
I think the background story was very straightforward. Uh, Not taking care of House of Assembly member and his intention to vie for the gubernatorial seat of Lagos State in my opinion, are secondary. The primary reason actually came to the fore during the last Yuletide, when the feelers absolutely showed that he will be ousted. When the president had a meeting with the major organs of the party, there you have the highest organ of the party in Lagos State is actually you call them the board of trustees of the party in the state, made up of highly respected elders. I think the last time is headed by a former vice deputy governor of the state, a very elderly person, Chief Chief Ali. The other name, his main name now, I can't readily
Okay.
recollect.
Yeah.
You have highly respected other statesmen there, former governors, former deputy governors, highly respected party leaders actually make up that board. Again, the governor, the deputy were part of that delegation to Mr. President, while the speaker represented the legislative arm of government in the state. And they were unanimous in the accusation of the speaker that he was not respectful of the organs. And one of the things they raised was the way he denigrated the governor. It was an open secret. And the president, I want to believe from that point, already told them that he has actually had enough of him, because that was not the first. But I think that was the last straw that broke the camel's back. Eventually, the other secondary things, like his intention, he was not the only one who had not hidden his desire to be governor, but the party machinery in the state had not gone after any. It's not a secret that the deputy governor actually also wants to have a bite of the cherry. Who actually ran against Sowolu in the primaries. He vied then. And there are several other persons whose name have been coming here and there. But when he went against the hierarchy of the party in the state, nobody had actually gone that route without getting his hands burnt. If you go back to history, most of the deputy governors who had issue with the president now, then he was just the party leader, most of the people who had issues with the party hierarchy have never been spared. The governor Ambode saga also comes to mind. He had issue with the party hierarchy, and the moment he was reported, it was so sure they told him he's not going to have a second term, even though he ran here and there, and he tried to use his power of incumbency to muzzle a few things together. We saw during the primaries how he was roundly defeated and eased out of office, not to have a second tenure. So history is actually straightforward.
Yeah.
The moment you don't dance to the tune of the party hierarchy in Lagos, you are out of your way. I'm surprised somebody with that kind of experience would fall into that kind of an error, because we have also seen a former speaker who went that route and he was not spared. So now, I really thought he was having too much of a confidence in his luck, and it was meant to be.
Now, while you cite that Obasa might have had too much confidence in his luck, and also being, well experienced and vast about and knowledgeable about the Lagos state political terrain, he shouldn't have easily fallen into such a trap. But part of the allegations brought against the erstwhile speaker, according to the members of the House of Assembly, include gross misconduct, poor leadership, high-handedness, lack of commitment to legislative business, and lack of regard for other lawmakers. Now, these are very hefty allegations against the speaker. Don't you think that perhaps instead of maybe being too confident in his luck, he was just a little bit too proud to relate on a normal level with the rest of the lawmakers, in line with all these allegations that have been leveled against him?
If you say that, you'll be right. But you and I know that some of those allegations were to actually have a constitutional leeway for easing him out. You can't come to the floor, for instance, and say you are sacking a speaker for not respecting party organs. That's not a legal ground for impeaching a speaker. You must look for legally acceptable terms that when you get to, if he chooses to go to the court, that you can levy
Such
against him.
allegations.
Yes, allegations that will fly in the face of law. And that's just that. Everyone knows that all the allegations they listed there, none of them in the House, and I say that without any, none of them in the House is actually not culpable of the same allegations they levied, except for not carrying maybe the party organs along in the administration of duties there. That again will tell you how Lagos State political machinery is run. The moment that order comes from, before we usually say body law, but now the moment that order comes from Aso Rock, everybody will just fall into place. And that's what you saw yesterday. Whether you are governor, you are anything, even before now, before he became the president, before Mr. President, before he Bola Ahmed Tinubu became the president of Nigeria, we know how powerful, how much of a grip he has over the party affairs in the state. All he just needed to do is to make calls, and the person is out of the place. Even deputy governors who thought they can stand toe to toe with him, ministers, none of every one of them actually came back to come, and the only person who had consistently stood his ground on the other side, in my opinion, should be maybe a Bode George, Tumbo Olapote George. But every other person, mention Obani Koro, just name them. They've all returned back. Femi Pedro and several other persons. They've all returned back to accept that, at least for now, is in full control of the party machineries. But those allegations you saw read out yesterday, they were just legal ways of giving themselves a soft landing for doing what they were actually instructed to do.
Now, with the emergence of Princess Mojishola as the Speaker of the House, the first female Speaker of the House of Assembly in Lagos State, what does this mean for women in politics? And this is most likely a very dynamic shift in leadership. What should the Lagos State people expect from such a change?
Thank you. I think I pride myself as an inclusivity advocate. When I saw that it was a female that would be taking over from him, because I know how things like this work. He was the deputy Speaker of the House. They might find a way and bring a male to sit there. But I think it was thoughtful. But again, don't forget that 2027 is just by the corner. They might just be looking for somebody who midway will not start getting hungry also to taste Marina House. And I think a female just fits that description. That's on the one side.
Yeah.
On the other side, she's also a third-term legislator.
Much like Obasa himself.
Yes, so that means she has experience on how the house should be properly managed. So she's not just being thrown there, and that's one of the narrative I've tried to let people know, that she's not just thrown there. She's 44 years old. She's been there. This is the third term. So when you come to experience and ranking, she has it. Also, she's actually from the Ojora family, one of the highly respected families in Lagos State. What should Lagosians expect? Sadly, I really don't think there will be so much to expect. Bear in mind how she got there. She got there due to party hierarchy loyalty. And I really don't think there will be so much difference, except to just say that we also experience that feminine side of governance. For instance, a country like Rwanda has shown us the way that when women are given responsibility, especially in the public space, like the judiciary, the legislative arm, and the executive, when women are given ample opportunity to function without the political interferences that we see in our climate, they are more they are more circumspect in the policies, in their decision making, and research has also shown that when women are in authority, they are a bit more inclusive in their thinking. So we should expect that in the coming days in the running of the Lagos State House of Assembly. For me, I wish her well, and I just hope that the political intrigues in Lagos, where everyone must just fall in line before you can get things done. Of course, you know some of the highly respected names before they got into that chamber. The moment they got there, the public started hurling insult at them, but it's really not about them. It's about the structure that you just need to line up and ensure that you do the bidding of the party. I must say, we don't expect so much difference in the way things are run in that house.
Well, it's about positivity still, even though we do not expect much difference in how things are run. But let's keep fingers crossed and hope that at least maybe more women, youth, and children will get empowered via this transition of a twist in the dynamics of the leadership of the Lagos State House of Assembly. Well, much enough for the Lagos State House of Assembly. Let's move on to other issues now, Mr. Seun. A recent revelation by the Nigerian military has described a very disturbing tactics by the Boko Haram sect in the northeastern part of the country, where it says that they are impregnating women to raise new generation of fighters. And also the Chief of Defense Staff has revealed that over 60,000 this is now on the New Telegraph newspaper, that over 60,000 surrendered Boko Haram members are children. How do you react to this? I mean, it's quite disturbing that Boko Haram would use such a very shallow-minded tactics to raise fighters instead of maybe just recruiting like they have always done.
Chijoke, if I tell you that this is not a very scary situation, I will not be honest with you. I read that news from General Musa that they had over 120,000 people surrendering, and out of that number, more than half, more than 60,000 are actually
children,
juvenile. They are children. And when he started explaining that this was born out of the tactics of Boko Haram because they don't have territorial grip again, they now decided to start impregnating. Sometimes you see children from the same mother who are just older, just by a few months difference. That says a whole lot. And as a nation, I really think we must begin to think in a manner that shows that we are actually ready to tame these ugly incidents. Like he said yesterday, when you give birth to a child in that very vicious, violent environment, you're going to give birth to a heartless, brutal, cruel child, because he has seen cruelty at his best, at his worst. And I really think we must begin to, apart from our conventional attack, when we have those kind of people, because I learned they are surrendering in drones, they don't have that heart because they are still very young to just maim and kill wantonly the way the other entrenched jihadis and terrorists have been
doing. Yeah.
So, yeah, I think we need services of psychiatrists, services of psychologists and those who are into the mental health genre of medicine to quickly go to work and see how they can help this number of people. You know, there was an incident a few years ago where so-called repentant
Boko Haram
Boko
members.
Haram, after a while, they run back and pick their guns again.
Yeah.
We had a lot of that incidents, and it became so scary for some of the state government that one of the governor actually threatened that they are not going to pardon any one of them again. If you recollect, if you there were
I
two
remember
of
very vividly.
yeah, governors threatening that they are not going to pardon anybody again because they bring them in, sew cloth for them, give them money, and the money they give them to start businesses, they turn it back to go and buy more weapons and all the rest. He also raised a major issue about the financing of terrorism in Nigeria. You could recollect during our discussion, our first discussion last year, we raised that issue about financing of terrorism.
Yeah.
Uh, we must be more vocal about our concern. You know, we have seen that there is an international twist to their financing. But while we are vocal about the international twist to the financing, we must also know that a lot of the kidnappings that are going on in the country, a lot of the kidnappings, because statistics have shown that this area where you have terrorism, you have banditry, you also have the highest number of kidnappings taking place there. And they are demanding for huge sums of money. So you must also know a lot of these proceeds from kidnapping activities also go into buying arms to go back into terrorism to prosecute the terrorism fight on the other side.
Yeah.
So while we are vocal, insisting that nations to ensure that their financing system, all right, is not used to transfer funds to prosecute terrorism in our country, we must also ensure that on our own border, we minimize incidences of kidnapping for money. Okay, because it has heightened in those areas, and the reason why it heightens is because it is an opportunity to get free money to buy more arms and continue prosecuting the war. So we must not just be fixated on the international dimension to terrorism financing. We must also know that a lot of the proceeds from kidnappings in Nigeria goes into terrorism financing, and we can cut that off without any external
Partnerships, yeah. Well, hello, Mr. Seun, are you still with us?
I'm with you.
All right, fantastic. Now let's go back to the issue of this women who have been impregnated by Boko Haram members and the children themselves. Now, the Chief of Defense Staff has revealed that not many of them are willing participants. In fact, some are conscripted, forced, or even enslaved. The debate on the table right now is as to what exactly the Nigerian military should do with these women who are already pregnant with children of these insurgents, and what the Nigerian military should also do with these children who were born out of, this sort of unruly arrangement between the Boko Haram insurgents and women that they have abducted from communities in Borno State and other parts of the country and have now taken them as wives or as sex slaves. What are your thoughts on this?
Thank you for that very auspicious question. But I think that's where shared responsibility must actually come into play. We have seen women in their thousands impregnated by terrorists. We have seen children in their thousands who have been byproduct of terrorists impregnating innocent ladies that were practically seized from their communities. So you have the three tiers of government: the federal, the local, and the state
And the state
government.
government, yeah.
So share responsibility comes into play here. If you bear in mind that, again, and that's why I just laugh when governors are running about and making it look as if the major problem we have today in Nigeria is the tax bill. Especially governors from that region of the country.
From the northeastern part of the country.
The northeastern, northwestern part of the country. The greatest threat we have today is the sheer number of out of school children, and even those who are in school but with a bleak future ahead of them. That's the greatest threat we have to our country today. Because someone rightly says that if you refuse, all right,
Yes.
to train a child, you'll be put in a position where you'll be repairing adults. And that's where we have found ourselves. That region of the country is the region of the highest percentage. There was a point, the percentage, over 70%, I think about 73% of out of school children is domiciled in one part of the country. That is a time bomb. And so now that we've had children from these terrorists, they must become the responsibility of our government. And how do we do that? We must ensure that if we are taking them to school, these schools must be schools that have, a well thought out Marshall plan for these children. If they are in primary, how you take them from primary to secondary. If they are going to tertiary institution, if they are going to learn skills, you must draw that plan for them. And there must be a way to follow them up. And I think religion also comes to play here. If we also know that is one major delicate issue in Nigeria. I've had people saying, since they are still pregnant, why not abort the pregnancy? No, on a moral ground and on a religious ground, that will not fly.
It won't.
Okay? It will not fly. If you bear in mind, we are highly religious people, and both dominant faiths in Nigeria actually frown at abortion. Okay? So, if you bring those kind of women here, then the federal must partner with the state up to the local government to ensure that we have a system that actually marshals out a future plan for these folks. Because that's the only way you can account for their development. If you don't do that, what took me to citing terrorists who came and they said we have surrendered, and later on they were found carrying arms again.
And doing the same thing they have surrendered for.
Doing the same thing. In fact, the sad part is not that they are doing the same thing they surrendered for. Is that we've wasted taxpayers' money on them, giving them money, giving them support. So they will just come collect our taxpayers' money and go back to buy more arms if we really don't properly take care of them. So in the north, you still have schools without teachers. You have teachers who are not trained. All right. You have the system of arrangement where young women are just walking without any form of support. So when it is the yield or the December yield type period,
yeah.
Legislators, executive arm of government, we call them, give them bag of rice, give them spaghetti and indomie, and call that empowerment, and wait until the next yield or that. No, we can't continue like that. People are saddled with responsibility of creating the right environment for individuals and people to thrive. Must work and ensure that we begin to see a semblance of sanity in that part of the country. I think that's the only way we can handle this, because it's a ticking time bomb if we don't have a plan to take them off the recruitment plan of these terrorists. And like I said, our religious organization also have a major role to play, both Christian and Islam.
And Islam. Now, Mr. Sheon, one thing that has been on the minds of many Nigerians, and including myself, is this, fight against insurgency that has lingered for a very long time. It's no news. 16 years down the line, we're still fighting insurgency. However, in recent times, we saw almost like a complete wipeout of the terrorists and their activities in the country, only for a resurgence most recently, late last year and into early this year. Why do you think this sort of resurgence might have happened? And is there particularly something to point to as to why the activities of Boko Haram members are now more pronounced? Just recently, we saw an attack in Borno State that claimed the lives of 40 people, including farmers and fishermen in the state.
Well, many factors will explain the resurgence of the activities of terrorism again in the country. But I would like to highlight about two for our consideration this morning. I'm not an authority in security matters,
Okay.
but I think open source data should be something we can also trust in analyzing issues as this. The first one is will be from a question I love asking. Have you asked yourselves why weeks and months to elections, terrorism suddenly, activity of terrorists suddenly dies down, even when we were at the peak of terrorism activities in the country? Have you asked yourself? So that means
that's a pertinent question.
Yes, there is a measure of influence that the political class have over these major actors. That is, if they want to reach them, they can actually reach them. They know how to reach them. Okay, that's the first angle. The second angle is our international border. The Niger Axis, Mali, Niger Axis has been a major breeding ground for terrorism for many years. These countries are enmeshed in their own crisis, and we have what we call the international cooperations between what they call the joint task force of these various nations. Since the ECOWAS issue came on, when some of these nations
decided
wanted
to pull out,
wanted to kick out their colonizers, France, and Nigeria came into the picture. So I want to believe that fragmented communication channel is also one that the terrorists have actually taken advantage of. A type of cooperation that our military with other bordering nations that we used to enjoy has not been so closely knitted. So that gap is also another thing that terrorists are taking advantage of to bolster their activities. I'm not saying there are, you have several other factors, but I think these two should be one we should address our minds to. The political class who have a measure of contact with the major players in these whether terrorism, jihadist operation, and the rest of them. We have pictures in the news and all of that, where some of these major actors used to dine, used to socialize with some of the major political actors. So that means if they want to reach them, they still know how to reach them. So why not just put a name once and for all? Let's halt this thing, and let's also ensure that we are not caught in the line of fire between our neighbors and their colonizer. Niger has issue with France, Mali has with France, and all of them, they have issue with France. We should not, let's just maintain our relationship with France. Also maintain our relationship with our neighbors without coming in between their fight and their issues with their colonizers. I think if we do that, we'll get back that closely knitted military part
Yeah.
that we used to enjoy before
And
now.
that relationship that is beneficial for all, most especially for us as a nation, due to the wars we are suffering in the northeastern part of the country with regards to the Boko Haram insurgency.
Absolutely. So if we maintain that part, we'll be able to push back on the activities of, and sadly, it's not just Nigeria that we have a resurgence. Almost every week, we have news of terrorists attacking very badly Niger, from Niger to Benin to Mali to Burkina Faso. Their activities are actually heightened. And for our mutual benefit and the safety of our citizens, I think we must go back to that military part that ensure that we can together fight terrorists and ensure that they have minimal fighting capacity than what we are seeing now.
Well, quite interesting takes here, Mr. Seun. We have just about 10 minutes to wrap up the conversation on Morning Express this morning. But let's also turn our attention to the National Assembly that is set to probe a 4 trillion naira revenue shortfall due to waivers. Now, I want to read out a headlining story here, and I just want to get your first reaction to this comical but very worrying headliner. National Assembly probes 4 trillion naira revenue shortfall due to waivers, threatens to cut JAM funding, over 1.1 billion naira spent on meals, and 850 million naira spent to kill mosquitoes.
Shocking.
Very shocking.
That's my shocking. I say shocking because the head of that agency, JAM, Professor Oloride,
Yeah.
has been a stellar public servant. You know, every year he's been in the news for remitting major part of the revenues that are accrued to JAM.
Yes.
But it's sad when I read that they collected a grant of 6 billion from the federal government and returned back 4 billion to the federal government. And out of the 2 billion that they used, they actually spent about 860 million for fumigation, for some other funny things, and close to 1 point something billion.
1.1 billion naira.
1 billion naira on food. Is it that they just resume JAM office to be feasting?
and if you remember, JAM has always had this history of stolen funds being or government funds being misappropriated in some very funny manner. You remember the case of the snake that swallowed that 30-something million naira thereabouts. It was still with JAM, if you remember, some couple of years ago.
That's why I said it's shocking, because that was the narrative in JAM before he came on board.
Yeah.
The moment he came on board, that actually changed. Okay? Every year, in fact, that was the first time we started hearing that JAM was remitting serious amount of money to the federation account,
yes,
year on year. So when I read this, I had to go back. Are you sure it's JAM? But I was surprised that it's actually JAM. So something has actually happened to the agency. Maybe there is a lot of pressure now, bearing in mind that he's actually winding down on his term in office.
Tenure, yes.
So maybe there is more pressure now to also prepare for his exit in office. Those are just assumptions on my side.
And also to cut out his own part of the national cake.
That's just my own assumption. But he started very well, and he's been on record to be one of the most stellar, excellent, and public servants with integrity in this country. The records are there when he served as a VC and when he now came on board as the DG of JAM. But this report, if it's true, I still want to believe it's not true, but if it's true, I think he needs to do something differently, except maybe that money for food is actually not a jam. Maybe they donated it to orphanage and things like that. So we have to get clarification from jam.
More,
But I
more,
think it's shame.
more investigation needs to be done.
I think it's shameful if jam officials just gather in the under the guise of travel or entertainment and they are spending over 1 billion on meals.
Well, another issue here, still regarding, the National Assembly's probe to these waivers and all of that, and with regards to how the federal government intends to generate revenue for the 2025 appropriation bill. Another news says that the FRSC has allegedly withheld about 8 billion naira worth of IGR from the federal government. Now, 8 billion naira is a lot of money. And for an agency of government of that caliber to withhold such amount of money, it begs the question the position of FIRS with regards to probing some of these agencies of government. What are your thoughts?
Okay, that kind of news, historically, the National Assembly also has a penchant of just throwing figures. It was in that same National Assembly that Senator, what's the senator from Bauchi's name again, told us that so amount was removed from budget, billions. He mentioned billions of
Billions
naira.
of naira,
Senator Ningi, who used to be in the House of Reps, and he was suspended. You remember that issue at that point. So there is a history of senators just picking papers and cooking figures, and weeks thereafter, when thorough investigation is done, you just discover that it's not that type of figure. And so that's why I'm always very careful when I hear that a senator or a committee says so thing has happened, because eventually you will not see any headway in their oversight to actually show that the initial news they threw in the public space is anything to go by. But having said that, the Federal Inland Revenue Service, one of the responsibilities they also have is to ensure that sometimes there was a time something similar, this type of a news came out, that some funds were actually withheld, and eventually it was discovered that in accounting, when you collect money from maybe institutions, especially private sector based institutions,
yes,
there is a period when you need to now harmonize what you get from what you think they should. So sometimes you might need to refund, some other times they might need to pay more. So what I've learned over the years, and my little experience with some of these type of issues, is that they deliberately keep that kind of money. But we are talking about a huge sum as high as 8 billion naira. So that's something is outrageous. And so the National Assembly must now do a more detailed and vigorous investigation to unravel why that quantum of money will be withheld by any government agency at all. And that's the right thing to do. What I'm just trying to drive at is that there's no need to be flippant about issues as this.
yeah.
Just investigate. That's their job. They have the constitutional responsibility to oversight any agency of government, ministries and MDAs of government. So they must do that job very thoroughly before churning data out, so that we don't have some of the historical slips that we've had in the past, where they will say so amount is missing, later on it will be discovered that nothing or something not even close to that was missing. So they must do a detailed job and ensure that no revenue generating agency of government keeps one extra money, because that's actually an opportunity to now pilfer and steal government
government
fund.
funds. Well, Mr. Seun Oni, quite a beautiful take there. We must thank you so much. It is about ensuring that proper and in-depth and thorough investigation is done before any figures are rolled out there. It's been a very interesting conversation with you here on Morning Express. Always a pleasure to have you join us virtually or in the studio.
Thank you so much. Always a pleasure to be on ADBN.
Thank
Have
you.
a great day.
Thank you.